John's hands were steady as he sawed through the rusted chain with his pocket knife. The German Shepherd flinched at first, but exhaustion overpowered fear, and it simply stared at him with tired, pleading eyes. Almost there, John thought, his jaw clenched. With one final scrape, the chain snapped. For a moment, the dog didn't move. It was as if it couldn't believe it was free. Then, in a sudden burst of energy, the shepherd took a wobbly step forward and collapsed against John's wheelchair, pressing its head against his chest. John stiffened. He wasn't expecting that. The warmth of the dog's body, the frantic rhythm of its heartbeat, it all felt strangely familiar. "I got you, buddy," John murmured, running a hand through the dog's tangled fur. But as much as he wanted to sit there and comfort the animal, he knew they couldn't stay. Whoever had left the dog here clearly had no intention of coming back, and the poor thing needed food, water, and medical attention. John glanced down at his wheelchair. Carrying the dog wasn't an option, but leaving it behind wasn't either. He searched around and spotted a broken leash tangled in the fence. Carefully, he unhooked it and fashioned a makeshift lead. "Come on, pal," he said, tugging gently. The dog hesitated, then staggered forward, trusting him. It wasn't much, but it was enough. By the time John reached his small home on the outskirts of town, the German Shepherd was visibly weaker. John didn't hesitate. He rolled up to his porch, opened the door, and guided the dog inside. "Welcome home," he whispered. The dog collapsed onto the floor with a sigh, too tired to explore its new surroundings. John reached for a bottle of water and an old bowl, filling it to the brim. The shepherd drank eagerly, then looked up at John with grateful eyes. A small, weary smile tugged at John's lips. "Yeah, I know that feeling," he said. As the night fell, John sat in his chair, watching over his new companion. He didn't know where the dog had come from or what it had endured, but he understood one thing clearly, they had both been broken, abandoned, and left behind. But maybe, just maybe, they could heal together. Little did he know, this dog would soon repay the kindness in a way he never could have imagined. The crisp autumn air carried a faint rustling of leaves as John Carter wheeled his way down the familiar forest trail. It was his daily ritual, one that kept his mind clear and his heart steady. As a Marine veteran who had lost the use of his legs in combat, John had learned to adapt. But some wounds ran deeper than the ones visible on his body. He exhaled, taking in the golden hues of the trees, when a sharp, desperate sound cut through the silence. A whimper. John froze. He turned his head, listening intently. The sound came again, a weak, sorrowful cry, barely audible over the wind. His pulse quickened. Someone, or something, was in distress. His instincts, sharpened by years of service, kicked in. He gripped the wheels of his chair and pushed forward, following the sound. The deeper he went into the trees, the louder the whimper became. Finally, he spotted a figure through the tangled brush, a German Shepherd, its ribs visible beneath a dull, matted coat. The dog was chained to an old, rusted fence post, its body trembling from exhaustion. Deep grooves in the dirt showed it had tried to break free, without success. Its dark, sorrow-filled eyes met John's, silently pleading for help. John's breath hitched. He knew that look. It was the same look he had seen in the mirror during his worst days, the look of someone left behind, abandoned by fate, clinging to hope. Gritting his teeth, he reached for his pocket knife. The chain was thick, but determination burned in his chest. He wasn't leaving this dog to suffer, not today, not ever. As the blade met metal, John whispered, "It's okay, buddy. I've been there too." Little did he know, this moment would change both of their lives forever. The soft hum of the ceiling fan filled the quiet living room as John watched the German Shepherd sleep. For the first time since he had found the dog, its body was fully at rest. No more trembling, no more anxious whimpers. Just deep, exhausted slumber. John sighed and rubbed his temples. He hadn't planned on getting a pet. In fact, he wasn't sure if he was even equipped to care for one. His own struggles had been enough to keep him occupied. But as he looked at the dog curled up on an old blanket, he knew he couldn't send it away. This wasn't just about rescuing an animal. This was about giving them both a second chance. A new name, a new bond. The next morning, the shepherd stirred, stretching its sore limbs. John rolled closer, placing a bowl of food near its nose. The dog sniffed hesitantly before devouring every last bite, as if unsure when it would eat again. "You've been through hell, huh?" John muttered, watching the dog lick the bowl clean. As the dog lifted its head, John finally said what had been on his mind all night. Valor. The name felt right. Strength, courage, resilience, all the things John had once lived by. And all the things this dog had shown in its battle to survive. From that moment, Valor became more than just a stray, he became family, healing, together. Days turned into weeks, and Valor's transformation was nothing short of remarkable. The once starved, broken dog had regained his strength, his coat shining under the morning sun as he followed John around the house. But it wasn't just Valor who was healing. For years, John had battled his own demons, the loneliness, the frustration, the feeling of being trapped in a body that no longer functioned the way it once had. He had spent so much time focusing on what he had lost that he had forgotten what he was still capable of. But Valor reminded him. Every time the dog curled up beside his wheelchair, every time those warm brown eyes looked up at him with trust and gratitude, John felt something he hadn't in years, purpose, He had saved Valor. And in a way, Valor was saving him right back. An unexpected hero in the making. One evening, as John was getting ready for bed, he lost his balance while transferring from his wheelchair. He hit the floor hard, pain shooting through his arm. He gritted his teeth and reached for the chair, but it was just out of his grasp. Frustration bubbled in his chest. He had been through this before. He would have to drag himself to the chair, using sheer upper body strength. But just as he prepared to move, something incredible happened. Valor, watching from a few feet away, suddenly sprang into action. Without hesitation, the dog trotted over, gripping the handle of the wheelchair with his teeth. With surprising strength, he pulled it toward John, inch by inch, until it was close enough to grab. John stared in disbelief. "Holy hell," he breathed. Valor wagged his tail, looking at John expectantly, as if waiting for his next command. John chuckled, shaking his head. "Well, I'll be damned." In that moment, John realized something. Valor wasn't just a rescue dog. He was a natural-born service dog, And their journey together was only just beginning. Unbreakable bond. The dog who saved his savior, John sat in his wheelchair, still in awe of what had just happened. Valor, once a starving, broken dog, had instinctively helped him in a way that even trained service dogs were taught over months. "Looks like you're smarter than I thought, buddy," John murmured, running a hand through the dog's thick fur. Valor wagged his tail, his deep brown eyes fixed on John, as if waiting for his next task. That night, John couldn't sleep. His mind kept replaying the moment Valor had pulled his wheelchair toward him. It wasn't a coincidence. It wasn't just luck. This dog understood him, his struggles, his limitations. And for the first time in a long time, John didn't feel alone. A natural protector. As the days passed, John started paying more attention to Valor's instincts. He noticed how the dog stayed close whenever he moved from his wheelchair to the couch, always ready to assist. If John accidentally dropped something, Valor would nudge it toward him with his nose. One afternoon, John wheeled himself to the mailbox at the end of his driveway. As he sorted through the envelopes, he didn't notice the stranger approaching from behind. But Valor did. A low, rumbling growl broke the quiet air. John turned to see a man standing just a few feet away. The stranger raised his hands. "Hey man, I was just..." Before he could finish, Valor stepped in front of John, his body tense, his ears pinned back. His deep, warning growl sent a clear message: "Stay back." John's pulse spiked. He wasn't sure if the guy meant any harm, but Valor wasn't taking chances. The man took a step back, eyeing the German shepherd warily. All right. No trouble." He turned and walked away. John exhaled, glancing down at his dog. "You just don't miss a thing, do you?" Valor's tail wagged slightly, but his eyes stayed locked on the retreating figure, making sure the man was really gone. John chuckled. Yeah, I think you were meant to find me. Training for a bigger purpose. That night, John made a decision. Valor wasn't just a pet, he had the instincts of a true service dog. And John? He needed him more than he realized. The next day, John called a local trainer who specialized in service animals. When he explained Valor's natural abilities, the trainer was stunned. A rescue dog with that kind of instinct? That's rare. With the right training, he could be incredible. John glanced down at Valor, who sat at his feet, watching him intently. Yeah, John said with a smile. He already is. A life-saving moment. Training began, and Valor took to it as if he had been born for the role. He learned how to fetch items, open doors, and even help John brace himself when moving from his chair. But it was one cold December night that proved just how much of a lifesaver Valor truly was. John had just finished making a cup of coffee when a sharp pain shot through his chest. He gasped, his vision blurring. His body felt heavy, unresponsive. Something was wrong, terribly wrong, He tried to move, but his muscles wouldn't cooperate. Panic set in. His phone was on the table, too far to reach. His voice was weak. Then, through the haze of pain, he heard Valor's sharp bark. The dog was already in motion, running to grab the phone from the table with his teeth. Carefully, he brought it to John, nudging it into his lap. With trembling fingers, John pressed the emergency call button. 911, what's your emergency? John's breath came in ragged gasps. Chest pain? The dispatcher assured him that help was on the way. Through it all, Valor stayed by his side, his body pressed against John's, offering warmth and comfort. When the paramedics arrived, one of them knelt beside Valor and patted his head. Good boy, she murmured. You just saved your owner's life. As John was wheeled into the ambulance, he reached out and stroked Valor's fur. You really are my guardian angel, aren't you? Valor let out a soft whine and rested his head on John's lap, as if to say, I'm not going anywhere. What had started as a rescue had turned into something far greater, a bond that neither war, nor injury, nor even fate itself could break, From forgotten to famous, John sat on his porch, sipping a cup of coffee as Valor lay beside him, head resting on his paws. The sun painted golden streaks across the sky, but John wasn't watching the sunset, he was watching his best friend. It had been weeks since the night Valor saved his life, and the story had spread faster than he could have imagined. What started as a simple post on a veteran support group, John sharing how his rescue dog had repaid the favor, soon exploded across social media. A local news station picked it up, calling John for an interview. Then national media got wind of the story. Before he knew it, reporters were showing up at his doorstep. The viral story that touched millions. Meet the paralyzed veteran whose rescue dog became his hero, read one headline. Stray German Shepherd saves disabled veteran's life. What happened next will melt your heart, read another. People couldn't get enough of their story. The idea of a wounded warrior finding an equally wounded dog, only for the two to heal each other, struck a chord. John wasn't used to attention. He had spent years in the shadows, quietly rebuilding his life. But now, he was being invited to talk shows, veteran panels, and even service dog advocacy events. Your story is inspiring, one reporter told him. Have you ever thought about training service dogs for other veterans? The question lingered in John's mind long after the cameras were gone. A mission bigger than himself. John had always thought his purpose ended when he left the military. But now, with Valor by his side, he saw a new mission, one that had nothing to do with war and everything to do with healing. He started small, volunteering at a local animal shelter, working with abused and abandoned dogs. Valor accompanied him, showing fearful strays that trust could be rebuilt. John even began mentoring other disabled veterans, encouraging them to adopt and train service dogs. One day, he got an unexpected call from a national veterans organization. We'd love to help fund a program in your name, the woman on the phone said. What do you think about starting a service dog training center for veterans? John's breath caught in his throat. Running a program? He glanced at Valor, who looked up at him with those ever-loyal eyes, as if sensing the weight of the moment. John smiled. "I think," he said, rubbing Valor's head, "that sounds like exactly what I was meant to do." The legacy of Valor. Within a year, the Valor Project was born, a non-profit dedicated to training service dogs for disabled veterans. The story of how one abandoned dog changed the life of a paralyzed Marine became a symbol of hope. John and Valor traveled the country, speaking at events, raising awareness, and sharing their journey. People donated, veterans signed up, and dogs found new homes. But through all the fame, all the attention, John never forgot how it started. Two souls, both lost, both broken, finding each other in the woods that fateful day. And neither of them would ever be alone again. The applause echoed through the auditorium as John wheeled himself onto the stage, Valor trotting proudly by his side. The event was a national conference on veteran rehabilitation, and John had been invited as the keynote speaker. He never imagined himself here, not as a war hero, not as an inspiration, and certainly not as a man who had found a second chance through an abandoned dog. Taking a deep breath, he looked down at Valor, who sat attentively beside him, tail gently thumping against the stage floor. "Years ago," John began, his voice steady, "I thought my story was over. I came home from war with scars, both seen and unseen. I felt abandoned, lost, and, to be honest, like I didn't matter anymore." The audience sat in silence, hanging on his every word. "And then one day I found Valor. Or maybe," John smiled, scratching behind the dog's ear, "he found me." A few chuckles rippled through the crowd. "I saved him from a life of suffering," John continued. "But in reality, he saved me from my own. He reminded me that even when we feel broken, we're never beyond saving. We all deserve a second chance." John paused, looking across the sea of faces. Veterans, families, dog lovers, people searching for hope. "That's why I started the Valor Project, because no one should have to fight their battles alone." The room erupted in applause, and John felt a lump rise in his throat. Not because of the recognition, but because, for the first time in years, he knew exactly why he was still here. A forever home. That night, John and Valor returned home, their quiet little house feeling warmer than ever. John sat on the porch, watching the sky turn shades of orange and pink. He reached down, rubbing Valor's head. "We did good, buddy." Valor let out a content sigh, resting his head on John's lap. It had been a long journey, from a forgotten soldier and an abandoned dog to an unbreakable team. But now, John understood something he never had before. Love, loyalty, and second chances are what truly heal the soul. And no matter what the future held, he and Valor would face it together. Because sometimes, the ones we save are the ones who save us in return.